Okay, bon dia. It's getting pretty hot here in Dania. Summer's coming in. Heading to the beach as much as we can, me and Mayra. Had a nice afternoon at the beach yesterday. But yeah, it's warming up. It's getting hot. I'm back in my little guitar room out the back of the house here to talk about this guitar. This is a the year is debatable, but this is a Gibson 355. ES Stereo 355. The year on this particular Gibson had funny ways of IDing their guitars, and then there's a couple of different ones that it's hard to pick the year. I think this is a 73, but it could be a 65, but I'm pretty certain it's a 73. The serial number will tell you 65, but I'm pretty sure this is a 73. Gibson did stupid things with the serial numbers. Gibson did a lot of stupid things as a guitar company, but anyway, I digress. I really think that this guitar was probably the most important guitar for me that I bought. Kind of set me off in a direction that songwriting wise and guitar playing wise, I thought was a much better option for me and seemed far more important to me than the path that I was on previously. There'll be people that disagree, you know what I mean? But you've got to turn yourself on before you can turn anyone else on. And this guitar and what happened around the time of buying this guitar was what was turning me on. So that's why I went in the direction that I did. In 97, I had... with Asteroid B612, things had changed a lot in 97, and there was a moment there that I thought, like, well, maybe I'll just start again doing something else. But I spoke to a couple of different people, and Benny and Scotty wanted to keep going as Asteroid B612, so we made a decision together, probably more my decision to make than theirs, and that's not an ego thing, it's just being the songwriter and the guy sort of leading the band, for lack of a better word. But they were happy to do it, so we kept going. I got my brother in to sing. Anyway, like I said, 97 was a big year. My buddy Luke Roberts was booking the tote, and he decided he wanted to go overseas for, 2 months or 3 months or something like that. And he asked me if I would come down to Melbourne and book the tote while he was away, the Tote Hotel. So I called my buddy Mick Evans and Richie Ramone and asked if there was a small piece of carpet that I could sleep on for a little while in their house, and they were happy to have me at their house. So I went down to Melbourne, and I think I lived there for about 6 months, number 4 Burgess Street in Richmond, with Mick and Richie. And during that time, I was booking the tote while Luke was away overseas. And anyway, at that time, it was the first time in my life that I had been unemployed, so to speak. So before I left Sydney, I had spent a couple of months on what we call in Australia the dole, which just means unemployment benefits. And it was the first sort of time and the only time in my life that I'd done something like that. I really didn't enjoy it. My parents were a little bit, and I like it. They were, if you want something, you got to go out and work and earn it and get it. Nothing's for free. You know what I mean? You got to work to get something. So it's kind of the way that me and my brother and sister were brought up, for better or for worse. But I'm happy we were brought up that way. So yeah, in 97 I was on the dole, and one day I wandered into, because you have to hand in your form once every 2 weeks or something like that, and being in the dole office wasn't, it was something that I didn't like, you know what I mean? I wasn't interested in being in there, but I needed to collect some money and get some money for free. But anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit here, sorry. I got to get to the point of how I came across this guitar. And I was in the CES, or the Dole office, in Bridge Street, Richmond. And my idea was to get in. My idea in those places was always to get in and get out as fast as I could. So I was in the queue with my form, figured I had it all, the boxes ticked or something like that. I get up to the lady at the counter, and she asked me a question, and to this day I have no idea what she asked me, but I figured if I say yes, that was better than saying no. So I just, whatever she asked me, I said yes. Now the next day, I walked from Burgess Street into Swan Street to check my account to see if the money had gone in, so I had some money to spend, the $370 or whatever they gave you a fortnight back then in '97. And there was an extra $1,500 when I checked the balance on the account outside. So I was like, I kind of panicked, and I was like, fuck, where did this money come from? So there was the $1,500 plus $370. I knew I had like 16 cents in the account beforehand, so there was no money in there. So I walked inside and I asked, could I have the sheet of paper, I can't remember what it's called, so you can see what's happening with your account, if they could print me out a statement. They printed it out, and I'd seen the money had come from the CES. And I panicked, and I said, okay, I'd like to close the account. And the lady said, what for? And I said, like, for no particular reason, but like I need the money. And she gave me the money. I panicked because I thought, like, what if they take it off me or something like that, So I took the money out. Don't know why they gave it to me, but that was it. That was the last time I was ever on the dole too. I thought, I'm not going back to fill out any forms to see if they say you're $1,500 in debt. Anyway, long story short, or shortish because I'm rambling on, I had extra money. That's old amps for you, valves and old amps. So I thought to myself, if I don't spend this money on something that I'll keep, I'll piss it against the wall gambling or drinking or whatever it was that I would have wasted it on. So I started searching for a guitar. Now, I'll tell you the story of this guitar a little bit more, but at the time too, I was starting to listen to a little bit more of the music that I was brought up with, playing with my uncle's band. Sleeping on Mick and Richie's floor meant that their record collections were the ones that I would listen to while those guys were at work or not at home or something like that, because I wasn't at home to listen to my own record collection. And Richie, depending on who you ask, is a bit precious with his record collection. So I usually found myself in Mick's bedroom listening to his records when no one was around. And listening to Mick's record collection at the time was a sort of Kinks, Beach Boys, some sort of rock and roll stuff, DMZ, stuff like that, but a lot of 60s stuff he was listening to at the time. And I kind of felt that I was heading in that direction too, and I was looking for a guitar, and I thought to myself, I'm going to buy a guitar, I'm going to buy something that speaks to me sonically a little bit more than just another solid body guitar, which a lot of the times, I mean, they are very different, a lot of them, but they're tight sounding. Whereas these guitars have a sort of big, sort of more loose sounding, Anyway, this guitar sort of speaks to me a little bit more and talk to me a little bit more songwriting wise as well, because Asteroid B612 would start to head in the direction of just having sort of one guitar as opposed to having two guitars. So I wanted to steer it in that direction a little bit more. Not two guitars competing against each other, one that spoke a little bit more as opposed to two sort of, at times I thought were fighting each other, but again, people will disagree. But plus this is a bigger guitar, and I'm a big guy. So as my good buddy Nick Reith told me when he first seen me play this guitar, he's like, I like your new guitar, Johnny, it fits you better. It being a bigger guitar and a bigger guy, it fit me better. So I was into hearing what an archtop guitar would do. So things like I don't know, like Song of a Baker by Small Faces, or whether it comes across on the telephone or not, I don't know. You know what I mean? But there's certainly a different voice with these type of guitars, these archtop guitars. Excuse me. Things like Buffalo Springfield, like Mr. Soul. Mr. Soul, I drove no reason. Even on the season. Stuff like that, yeah. So I'm heading around Melbourne town on trams, looking at guitar stores and stuff like that. And at one point, I found myself in South Melbourne, and I wandered into I forget what it's called now. Guitar Emporium. Not the location it is now. The location when it was more further up, closer to the shops. I think on Bank Street or somewhere near there. But it was closer to the shops. Now I think it's further away down, closer to the ocean. But anyway, I walked in and I seen this guitar, and I thought it looked great. I mean, I knew that this wasn't an original. This piece here. This is off a Gibson L5, like jazz guitar. Probably the same sort of era, like 60s, early 70s, but this is not the original tailpiece. The original tailpiece would have been the type of tailpiece that that you see on other guitars that I have here. But anyway, and it did have the original pickguard on it, but that they oxidize and they turn to crystals and fall apart, and it did so halfway through a gig in Italy one night while on tour in Europe. But I seen this guitar, and I said to the guy, like, you know, it's a chance to play it and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, and he plugged it into a nice little amp, and I played it and loved it, like absolutely adored it. It was $2,500, and I didn't have $2,500. I had like roughly about 2,200, and I needed some money to get home to Sydney at some point. So I thought to myself, I need to spend around $2,000 on this guitar. I said to the guy, like, so is it negotiable, the price? And he's like, well, we don't own it, it's on consignment, let me call the owner. Luckily for me, I had played this guitar and loved it, and like was really thinking to myself I had to have it. Sitting right next to it was a red 335 from '62. Now it was $4,500. It was out of my budget. But while he was calling the owner, I picked it up and played it. And still to this day, it's the most beautiful guitar I think I've ever played or heard the notes speak to me. So much so when I put it back down, I looked at this one and thought, fuck, I've got to have the red one. And it was just out of my reach money-wise at the time. And I had to sort of jog my memory that I really did love this guitar. So went back to this guitar. And it really did have the different sound sonically that I was looking for. You know, more of a voice, stuff like that. He went back, spoke to someone, came back and said the guy's not available. But the guy who owns it owns another music store in Elwood, closer to St Kilda there. So if you want, go and talk to those guys there, and they might have a better idea on how negotiable he is at the price. So the next day I did that. He was on holidays in Bali with his family, and they said to me, he calls us on a Friday to check in to see if everything's going okay at the shop. And I said, so what if I'm here on Friday and I get to talk to him when he calls in? This is if people had mobile phones back then, I certainly fucking didn't own one. I mean, I didn't own a mobile phone until, I don't know, less than 10 years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago. But it's 97, and so people weren't just calling people or texting people or FaceTiming or anything like that, or what I'm doing now, making videos and sending them to people. So he was calling to check in on the business on Friday because he was in Bali with his kids. So I was there on the Friday when he called, and they sort of said, listen, there's this guy out here. He wants to buy the 355, but he wants to talk to you first because he doesn't want to pay the 2,500. So I thought to myself, I got one shot at getting this guitar, and it's try to convince this guy to sell it to me while he's on holidays in Bali. Now, as cheeky as this may be, I thought I've got to try to convince him that he needs the money when he comes back. So I got on the phone, I said, look, I really dig the guitar and I want to buy it, but I've only got $2,000. That's the best I can do is two grand. And he's like, well, the guitar's 2,500. And I said, give it. I've got the cash and I'll give it to you now. But that's all I've got is 2 grand. I can't afford anything else. And he's like, look, I don't think I can let it go for 2,500. And I thought to myself, I've got one shot at this. I said, how long are you on holidays for in Bali? And I guess he figured that I might wanted to talk to him face to face instead of on the phone. That's not what I was getting at. And he said 2 weeks. And I said to him, I know this sounds terrible. I said, I'm guessing that's pretty expensive with a couple of kids and a wife. And he's like, yeah, it's not cheap. And I said, wouldn't you like to come home to 2 grand cash? And he paused. And he said, put the other guy back on the phone. And I thought, you know what I mean? He just thinks I'm an arsehole. And understandably so. Trying to hustle him like that. He talked to the other guy on the phone for 30 seconds maybe. And the guy got off the phone and said, you can have it for 2 grand. So it pays to hustle sometimes. So it was mine. And I really started to write a bunch of different songs once I got this guitar. On the Asteroid B612 record, reading between the lines, I would have never written something like that's a song called Still Waiting off that record. And I wouldn't have written something like that on a solid body guitar. At least I don't think I would have, and I did on this guitar. So Long Goodbye. Yeah, songs that I really was getting into using open chords, you know, like. to me, do have a different voice. This guitar was used on most of that record. Both Easy Action records were recorded with this guitar in America. You know. Sorry by the Easy Beats was one of the songs we recorded for the Easy Action record, and again getting back to watching the Easy Beats with Snowy playing. The two guitar players playing archtop guitars. I think that one of them was playing a Maton, and I think the other, the blonde guy. Sorry, I'm getting old. I'm losing my my focus and memory on names. But he definitely played like something like this. You could hear that on those songs. Used a lot on the first two Secrets records. Even this guitar is important to me. I still, when I choose a guitar to take on a tour or whatever, or to take in the studio, this is the first one that gets chosen. And there's probably too many guitars hanging around in this room, but this one is really close to me, and it's the one that I feel is the most important to me. This guitar. Yeah, it's a crack of this guitar. Lots of great songs. I still write on this sometimes. I mean, mainly now I write on the acoustic guitar, but I still, if I come up even with an idea when I'm noodling around with the acoustic guitar on the sofa, I can hear what I want it to hear sound like plugged through an amp. This will be the guitar that I'll pick up first to sort of test run it, you know. Just plug straight into the little elk stage, man. I think I could go on forever about this guitar, but what I can say is it's really important to me, and yeah, it helped me push off in a direction that I was happy to go in. 24 minutes, again, over the quota. And I'm not even sure if I said half the shit that I wanted to say, but a great guitar, great sounding pickups, beautiful to play, and it's mine, not yours. Have a great day. See ya.